everyone, I am Bianca Octavia and I am here at Plaid Crafts Studios here in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I am taking over the craft break session and I will be teaching you guys how to turn these 10-cent pool noodles into realistic looking birch logs. And so I know you're like, how are those going to turn into logs? How can a pool noodle possibly turn into this? Well, we're going to do it in a few simple steps using all of Plaid Craft products. So I'll go through the supplies list first. So for this project, you will need Mod Podge. You will also need black paint, gray paint, and you can use beige paint, but if you don't have beige paint, you can combine a mixture of brown and yellow to create your beige paint. And you'll also use white paint. So got your Mod Podge and you have your paints. You'll also need about 3 to 4 sponge brushes. If you don't have a sponge brush, you can use a regular paintbrush, but I do suggest using sponge brushes. And then you'll also need 3 cups of water. So you don't want to fill them up. You want to do about 1/3 of water in each of like these small cocktail size cups. And then you will also need tissue paper. Doesn't matter what brand, you can get the cheap kind at the dollar store. And then you will also need craft paper. And you do want to make sure that it is brown craft paper. All right. And then of course, you will need a pool noodle. So the pool noodles, I suggest getting these while they are on sale during the off season. So in the wintertime, you can get these for 10 cents, which is what I got these for. 10 cents at any dollar store or grocery store. And you know, in the summertime, they're about $5. So they're cheap then, but they're even cheaper in the wintertime. So those are all of your supplies. You will also need miscellaneous things like scissors and a pencil. All right, so we will go ahead and we'll get started. So first thing you want to do is cut your pool noodle to size. So this is kind of long right now. So we're going to cut this to about 2 feet long. And you can cut this to whatever size you want, but I suggest 2 feet because you do kind of want to keep it the size of a real log. You don't want to have like this super long log and then it looks like a pool noodle turned into a log. You want to actually make it look like a real log. So right here, I've become an expert measurer by this point, which is my eyeball. So this is about 2 feet here, and I'll actually just match it up to the log that I've already made. So, all right, so about that long. And a quick pro tip. So you can cut the pool noodle using scissors, but I always keep my eyebrow razors because these come in really handy with crafting. So it's almost like a cheaper version of an X-Acto knife. So that's just my pro tip. You can use scissors if you have them at home. All right, so we're gonna cut the pool noodle now that we know the length. All right, so again, I'm gonna take my eyebrow razor and I'm just gonna cut straight through this pool noodle. See how easy that is? It's easy with the scissors too, but this is a little bit less work. So we'll just slice it a little more. All right, and should be able to pop it apart. Super easy. So that is your first step. All right, and if it doesn't come out perfect, you can kind of just edge it off with the razor. So this one is actually pretty perfect, actually. All right. So we'll get that out the way. All right, so you have your pool noodle. The next thing you want to do is grab your craft paper and you want to measure it to the size of your pool noodle. So we know that we have 2 feet, so we want to measure out about 2 feet of craft paper. Let's move this out the way. Get some more room. All right. All right, so 2 feet, we'll give it about 3 extra inches just in case. So grab your scissors. You can also use your eyebrow razor for this, but we're just gonna stick with the scissors. And you just wanna cut it. Cut. All right, so we have our craft paper cut And then the next step is to cut it into strips. So let's move our pool noodle out of the way for a second. And you want to cut this way. And you want to cut medium-sized strips. So you don't want to cut them too small or too big. And what we're doing right now is we are making the bark for the birch log. So we'll probably get about 6 to 7 strips out of this. So that's 2, 3. Let's bring this, it might be a little easier. All right. All right. Almost there. So that is 4 so far. All right. Just a few more. And you can actually double the paper up and cut it, which is probably what I should have done. But do it however you would like to. All right, so once you have cut all of your strips, the next thing you want to do is crumble them up. So, almost like you're throwing away some trash. And the reason we're doing this is because birch logs have like a really weathered look. And if you've ever really paid attention to a birch log, it almost looks like the bark is like peeling off or coming off. And so when we ball this up, this is what's going to give our logs texture. So ball them up really, really good. Squeeze them tight. All right. And then you want to go back and you want to unball them. All right. So lay them back out. So you do want to get them as wrinkled as possible. This is one area where it is okay to make it look bad. All right. So we will open these up. And please let me know if you guys have any questions so far. If you're not familiar with craft paper, you can pretty much get this at any crafting store, even a grocery store. And if you have brown paper bags at home, you could probably use those as well. All right. So, open up all of those. The next thing we want to do is grab our pool noodle. And we are going to wrap our noodle in the paper using Mod Podge to attach it. So, we'll start with our first strip. We'll grab our Mod Podge. And let's pour a little out right here. All right. Grab your sponge brush. And then go ahead and wrap the first piece of paper. Really simple, nothing too hard. And just glue it on. Hold it down for a second so that it's really secure and stays in place.
And Bianca, what formula of Mod Podge are you using?
So this is the matte formula. And honestly, it does not matter what formula you use because you're not going to see it at all. But right now we are using matte Mod Podge formula.
Thanks.
So, all right. You just want to put enough to get the paper to stay down. And it's okay if it gets like on top of it because this is going to dry clear anyways. And we're going to paint this like 3 different colors, so it doesn't matter. So don't worry about trying to get that perfect. All right. We're going to do the next piece. And it's okay to overlap the paper, so don't try to get it like perfect. It's okay to overlap it a little because that will actually give it even more of a textured look. So with this project, it's all about trying not to be perfect. You do want those imperfections because birch logs are imperfect, which is what makes them perfect. All right. So we have a few more. A little more Mod Podge. All right. And then once we finish wrapping this, we are going to cut out more craft paper to cover up the ends of our pool noodles. And we will trace those out with a pencil. So, a little more. All right. And, you know, I know it's kind of hard to see it, or maybe it's not, but if you have vision, you can kind of see the log forming already. do a little more Mod Podge here. Alrighty. Alright. So every time someone comes over, no one even questions the logs that are in my fireplace, because who's just going to ask about logs in fireplace?
Yeah, do you want to grab, Bianca, the finished one?
The finished one,
You can maybe
yes.
show it while you're wrapping.
So
just if you're
I
just
will set
tuning
this
in.
one here while I finish wrapping
Yeah.
this, so that you can take a look at it. So if you Google a picture of a birch log and you look at this one, you'll be able to see the similarities. And so, like I said, no one ever asks, because they're like, oh, okay, she has a fireplace. But I always bring it up just to shock people. And I'm like, those are actually pool noodles inside of my fireplace. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, they're pool noodles. And then they go over and they play with them, because no one ever believes me until they like actually pick it up and feel the light, you know, like the light weight of it. And then they're like, oh, she's not lying. So
I love them that they're so light. Like if you try to stack them in a basket, they're always heavy and they fall over.
Yes.
So like this, you could do vertical and really like decorate and stack with them, which is pretty.
Yes. And so if you are like me, I have a fireplace, but it does not actually work. And so, you know, there's no need for me to go and buy like real wood that'll like eventually rot over time. So if you do just want to decorate your fireplace and fill it with wood, this is a good alternative instead of going out and buying, you know, real wood. All right, so we got 2 more strips and then we will be done with this part. All right. 2 more. All right.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions,
Yeah,
I'm here in the
please.
studio. I can definitely, Bianca can answer them for you. And I think Tamara's on the
Please.
chat, so.
Please ask as many questions as you would like. I had questions for myself when I was making this, because I was like, how is this going to come together? Like, I didn't believe in it until I actually finished it.
They are beautiful. We were shocked when we saw them.
Yeah.
And it just worked out. We're all here in Atlanta together.
Right. Super excited about that. I've lived here all of my life, and I'm really excited to be this close to you guys.
Yeah.
All right. We got 1 more piece. All right. Last piece here. So this craft takes about 30 minutes or less. That's okay. This craft takes about 30 minutes or less to make. So the actual process might take longer than 30 minutes because of the dry time once you're actually finished with it. But making it does not take long at all. And it also just depends on how many you actually end up making. All right. All right, so we have fully covered our log.
Oh, and Mod Podge dries clear, so it's okay.
Mod Podge
there's a
dries
delay, so I just saw you got the Mod Podge on the log.
Gotcha.
So it dries clear, so that's
Yes. So if you have Mod Podge, excuse me, showing, it is okay because it will dry clear. So don't worry about that. And plus, like I said earlier, we will be painting over this anyway, so you're not going to see any of these imperfections. All right. So once your log is fully covered, you are going to take more craft paper. And you're going to cut out some paper for the ends of your log. So we're going to double this up. Fold it in half. So let's move this back out of our way. All right, we'll sit this right here for a second. So we're just going to fold it in half. All right. And you know, if you are really good at eyeballing things, you could just cut out a circle. But if you're not, take your log and just trace around the end of it. And trace out a circle. All right. Come around here. All righty. And then you double up the paper so that you don't have to cut 2 circles twice. So we'll get 2 circles out of this one cut. All right, so cut that out. Get rid of our excess paper. All right. So let's cut this out. I really like craft paper. For Christmas, I typically wrap everyone's gift in craft paper, and then I paint their names on with their favorite color. So it's always really cute around Christmas time in my house with craft paper.
We did a bunch of projects with craft paper painting wrapping paper. It's such a big trend right now.
Ooh.
DIY wrapping paper.
Yeah, I think people really like the naturalness of craft paper.
Yeah.
All right, so we have our two ends. Same thing, we are going to put them onto the log with the Mod Podge. So we will grab our Mod Podge again, our Mod Podge. All right, and then paint a little bit on to the ends here. And if your circle is imperfect, again, that is okay. So if you have a little bit of your pool noodle color showing, that is totally fine, because once we finalize this project, you are not going to see any of that. All right, so you just stick it on there. So that's actually perfect. Perfect. So you can see that. All right. And then we're gonna do the other end. So a little more Mod Podge. All right. All right, and then we will stick our other end on. All right, so now, if we weren't doing a birch log, you would almost kind of be done right now, but we're doing a birch log, so we're not done. But you can kind of see it coming together. Glue it on a little bit more. So in between each step, you do kind of want to let it dry just a little bit. And you can use a blow dryer if you want to kind of speed up the process. But if you have time, you can just kind of let it sit and walk away for about 10 minutes and come back and move on to your next step. All right, so I think that's on there pretty good now. Alrighty, okay, so now our log is fully covered. So the end caps are done and our log is fully covered. So the next step, you want to take tissue paper in maybe about 2 to 3 feet and break it up and create wads of tissue paper. So you don't want to make them too big. You want to make them about the size of the middle of your palm right here. All right, so we'll make 3 of these. And what these are going to be are the knots on your log. So if you've ever paid attention to a tree log, there are like these knots on it that looks like a limb was almost going to grow out of it, but it actually didn't. So that is what these will be. So Mod Podge is a very important part of this project, if you can't tell. It's included in almost every step here. So we are going to randomly glue these onto our log. It does not matter where you put them. You do want to make them random. Like I said earlier, this is an imperfect project, so you don't want it to look perfect. So we're going to put some Mod Podge right here. All right. And we'll take this one and we're just going to stick it on there. Hold it down for a second. It shouldn't take long to attach. While that is gluing on, I'm going to go ahead and do the next one. And like I said, you just kind of want to randomly stick them throughout. But what I will say is, if this is just for decorative purposes, you know, and it's not going to be seen from every angle, just go ahead and stick them on the front side where you know people will actually see it at. So hold these down. I think that one is on there. Don't worry about it sticking up. We are going to take care of this in the last step. As long as it is actually attached to the log and does not fall off, you're good to go. So, all right, we'll do 2 more. So I'm gonna put one here. And you know, if you know that your log will be seen from every angle, you can go ahead and cover the back side, but I'm just gonna do the front side. All right, we'll hold that down and start on our next one. All right. All right. So do you guys see the vision yet? Or does it look like a mess? All right. So I think these are pretty good to go. Bam. Good and secure. So nothing's falling off. Everything's on. All right. Next step. So we are ready to start painting. I am a messy crafter. It does not matter how much I cover up my table or my floor. I always end up getting paint everywhere. So my favorite brand of paint to use when I am crafting is Apple Barrel, because I know that this is really easy to clean up with a warm rag. Really not even a warm rag, just something wet. So I really love this paint. So I do suggest using this. So I am not going to paint this entire log white because I already have one ready to go, but I'm just going to show you the strokes of it. So we can use a new brush. So you just kind of want to go over it and maybe go against the paper so that you're not tearing it. So let's go this way. And you want to completely cover the log. And if there are brown spots left over when you finish, that is okay, because that will actually tie into, you know, the birch log look. It still is a brown log because it is part of a tree. So if you see some brown parts left over, that's totally fine. So I'll do a few more strokes. And do not worry about painting the tissue paper white, because number one, it's already white. And then number two, that is something we are going to cover in our last step. So just keep painting and keep painting until it is fully covered. So I'll stop here. All right, so you can kind of see it. All right, so I'm going to take this out the way. And when you are completely done painting your log white, it should look like this. So this is completely covered in white. It is dry and it is ready for our next step. So white is your base coat. So it's not your, it's your main color. So the white is going to show through the next colors that we are going to do. So this is an important step. So next, let's talk about our gray paint wash. So paint wash. Let's move this just for 1 second while I talk about our paint wash. So paint wash is simply just mixing water together with your paint. So we're going to do part water. You don't want to use too much water because you don't want it to be super runny. So I already have some water in here, and I'm going to add a little bit of gray. And so the reason we're doing a paint wash instead of just, you know, slapping the gray paint on there is because if we were to just paint, you know, gray paint on here, we would cover up our white. We don't want to cover up the white. We want to accent the white. So we can use our white paintbrush. That shouldn't affect the color too much. All right. And you kind of want it to be like an off-white gray. Off-white, light gray. So do a little more. All right. So this is your paint wash. Super simple. So you want to bring your log back, and then you're just going to simply paint it. You don't want to do too much because you don't want it to be super runny. So you're going to paint all over your log, and you can kind of already tell, you know, the difference between the white and the gray. Yep. So get it covered as much as possible, and you might need to do 2 coats, and that's okay if you need to. And then if you are an impatient crafter like I am, you can use a blow dryer to dry your paint. That way you could just keep it moving. You don't have to wait 20 minutes, you know, to wait for your first coat to dry. So we'll get this as covered as possible. Alrighty. And then the next paint wash we are going to do is beige. So with the beige paint wash, so at home when I initially did this craft, I did not have beige paint, so I mixed together a brown and a yellow. So if you do not have beige and you don't want to have to go buy one, you can mix brown and yellow together if you have that already. So I don't know if on camera you can actually tell the difference between the gray and the white. Yeah, I kind of see it like right in here. So you already kind of have your weathered look going. So So I'm gonna bring this other log back. So when this really dries and settles, see how this is like really gray? Once this dries and you do a second coat, this is how it will look when it actually is dry and it's settled. So I know right here it kind of doesn't look like it, but if you walk away or use your blow dryer, when it dries up, it will look like this. So next step, we are going to make our beige paint wash. So we'll move the gray out of the way and make our beige. I actually already have a toffee here. I think this will do fine. I don't think we have to mix a brown and a yellow together. Now let's grab a new paintbrush. Let's see, yeah, I think this is actually perfect. So toffee, apple barrel paint, and water should do just fine. So same thing, you just kind of want to go back over it. This is adding a little bit more texture and dimension. So giving it that pop of brown, because like I said, it is a piece of wood. So we don't want it to just be completely gray and white. We do want it to have some pops of, you know, its natural color. So paint it. And again, just like with the gray wash, once this dries and settles, it will actually be a little darker, but because it is kind of rainy right now and it hasn't dried, it is a little lighter. And, you know, if you have brown paint, you can go and add a little more into it to make it darker if you want to. I think this is actually fine. So, all right, so we are inching towards the end here. So we're going to bring our gray wash back, and we are actually going to add in a little bit of black paint. So are these both? No, that's our gray. So we're going to add in a few drops of black. And like I said, this is a messy craft. You can see my hands here. So you might even want to wear an apron for this. All right, so one of the final steps is to create the color for the stripes that are going to go onto our log. So, and the reason we want to add a little bit of black is because if we just use the same gray, you know, to make the stripes, you won't be able to tell the difference between the initial gray wash that we use. So you add a little bit of black and you just add stripes throughout. And once this dries, it won't look so black, I promise. So just random stripes throughout.
And somebody's asking, I'm just going back and looking at comments, what is the ratio of paint to water?
So you want to do about half and half. Again, it also depends on, you know, how big you actually make your log. So, you know, if you are doing a larger log, you might have a larger cup of water, but I would say about half and half.
So like a 1-to-1 paint water ratio.
Yep,
okay,
1 to 1.
perfect. And then do you let it dry between the washes?
Yes, you do want to let it dry between the washes. And like I said, you can use a blow dryer to speed up the process, but if you want to just walk away and just let it dry for about 20 minutes in between each paint process, you can. And then last but not least, so we have our stripes on here. And like I said, you know, if at home viewing on the camera, it doesn't necessarily look like the one that I showed you right here.
Maybe we can get a close-up.
Yeah.
Like either hold it up to the camera or Will can zoom in there.
Of course. So once this settles, it will start to look like this. So right now this one is drying and the color isn't as perfect as the one that I have right here, but give it a little while and once it settles, it will look like this one here. So, all right, last but not least, our tissue paper wash, and this is our last step. So you're gonna take that same paint wash that we just did for the stripes, dip your paintbrush in, and you are going to completely soak these. And the paint will actually crumble them up on its own, and they'll shrink up on their own, and they will dry and become really hard. And so I feel like this is the step that really brings this entire project together. And these are the parts of the log that just really makes it look real. All right, so, yep, so you just want to completely soak them. And if the paint runs off, that's totally fine because that just adds another stripe onto your log. So get it really covered. And if you want to add a little bit more black paint to your, your darker gray wash, you can. Not necessary, but totally a preference. If you want them to be really black or darker, you can do that. All right, and then our last one right here. And then, guys, we are done. So this project, it is easy. It takes a little detail, but anyone can do this. You do not have to be a crafting expert, of any skill level. So let this dry. Give it about an hour. And when you are finished, you end up with this.
That's amazing.
Thank you, guys. And I'll grab my bundle from back here. And so at home, I always have these wrapped up in a really cute ribbon, and then I just place them inside of my fireplace like this.
I love it.
So yeah, guys, this is a really easy craft. Like I said, make sure you grab your pool noodles while they are on sale in the wintertime. I literally got these for 10 cents because they just wanted them out of their store. So you can do so many things with these. You can make lollipops, candy canes, or you can make logs. So put these back. I hope you guys enjoyed this craft. I had fun crafting with you guys today on the craft break. My name is Bianca Octavia. If you would like to follow me on social media, please catch up with me on Instagram at I'm Bianca Octavia or on my website www.biancaoctavia.com. And please make sure that you follow Plaid Crafts at Plaid Crafts on Instagram, and please visit them online at plaidcrafts.com. Thank you, guys.